fellow night owls. You're still awake, I see. The air itself shivers with what you can't see, and it seems you're ready to join us for a new tale. What if your nightmares aren't just dreams, but a terrifying reality just waiting to begin? What if the chilling visions you see while you sleep start to bleed into your waking hours, blurring the line between this world and the other? Prepare to question everything as you descend into a world where ghostly figures, sinister curses, and the cold threat of your own death become terrifyingly real. Are you ready to feel a shiver down your spine? Then dim the lights, tuck into your blankets, and let yourself relax before we dive into the void. Story 1, Prologue, The Lost Symphony. Darkness slowly hovered over the melted sky. Renee, a photographer who just came from a funeral service, was walking alone along the usual street where the streetlights are 3 blocks apart. It was a very quiet night. No crickets were chirping, and there were no city noises. The trees seemed lifeless, and there was no sign of people passing by. It was odd, and it seemed like the night was a bit off. A little shiver traveled down Renee's spine as he continued walking with very cautious eyes that gave a quick, surreptitious glance. The atmosphere became chillier each time he took a step and addressed the night with a hiss and a shiver. Renee touched his nape as he started to get worried. Sweat started to roll down his forehead as his heart beat ferociously. His cold fingers started to tremble as he immediately reached for his phone in his pocket and decided to play some music to clear his mind, not slightly assured of what would happen. At the peak of Renee's senses, something unusual happened that made him stop. Stiffly, he felt a mild wind blow in front of him, and yet he heard nothing. His eyes wandered off, looking up at the century-old trees to check if the leaves were moving. And yes, they were brushing against each other, but still Renee heard nothing, which was quite unusual. He busied his eyes around him, at the empty, cold street, and at the houses that radiated warm light from within. It was eerily quiet. He shifted his gaze from time to time, as Renee could not keep his feet on the ground, his thoughts paralyzed. He felt like he had been put in a maze. His thoughts slowly swallowed him, and he started to panic. Renee decided to walk fast with all his might, hearing the loud thump of his heart as if the night was eating him alive. After a few steps, Renee noticed something while walking. Not being able to hear his footsteps made him stop. As he became still in momentary uncertainty, he tried to shout louder as his voice trembled. Hello. He slid his finger to check his ear to see if he was going deaf. He tried to scratch the inner part of his right ear with his pinky finger. Then he shouted once more, "Hello." Out of nowhere, someone answered, and he heard it. It was a whisper, the voice of an old lady that felt so cold it nearly made him faint.
Hi there, mister.
Renee immediately touched his left ear and looked to his left side. He got startled and fell to the ground. The atmosphere became darker and soul-twitching when he discovered that no one was there. But a box, not bigger than a lunchbox, suddenly appeared, and it was being tied up by a very long red string that was suspended above. The box was hovering, moving, passing in front of Renee until it landed in the middle of a lit street. And he knew that at this point he should be running away, but his legs wouldn't move. Tightening his grip on his satchel, he was overcome by curiosity and suddenly found himself standing beside the box. It was still tied up by the red string. Renee's eyes followed the red string, but it stretched way too far toward the dark sky. Silence still dominated the street, a silence that his heart yearned for. Renee again looked around and still found himself alone in the street. This is when he decided to just walk back, thinking about spending his whole night inside his office instead of going home with a troubled mind. Renee turned his back away from the box, But as he did that, without notice, the red string was untied from the mysterious box. Suddenly, it opened on its own with a symphony that surprised his ear. A music box. He heard it loud and clear as the song played. A fleeting memory suddenly appeared in his mind. It was an image of someone he clearly didn't remember. It really was a familiar song, but the more he tried to remember, the harder it got to figure out. The song got stuck in his head and slowly poisoned his mind. He couldn't get it out. It was getting louder and louder, placing him in a deafening state. The high pitches of the sound pinned him down to the ground while he held his head forcefully with both hands and gritted his teeth, asking for the unbearable pain to be gone. His loud screams suddenly brought him back to reality. His strength seemed to have all gone as he found himself in the dark, standing in the middle of the street. Renee's world suddenly stopped when a very fast car sped in his direction. And everything went blank. Surrounded by sheets and soft pillows, Renee woke up confused. He slowly got up, feeling every pain in his body. He shut his eyes and tried to remember what had happened, but the last thing he remembered was the night he got blinded by the lights from a car. He wandered his eyes and found himself in a cold hospital bed, alone, with a huge cast around his head. Unexpectedly, a sharp, stinging pain flared at his temple, forcing his eyes shut. His hand instinctively rose to his head. As the ache receded, something brushed his arm. Felt like a hair, yet it was far too coarse, too thick to be one. His curiosity deepened, so he slowly opened his eyes. Looking through the space between his fingers, he looked at his arm, and what he found gave him a chill that ran through his spine. It was that same red string. His eyes widened. The hair on his arm stood up as the string slowly ran over it, then over and under the bed. His eyes, filled with terror, followed the string that was being pulled over the hospital floor. There he noticed that the string was moving towards the dark corner of the ward. His heartbeat abruptly beat faster, pushing back and forth against his chest. He felt lightheaded. As his eyes were glued on the moving string, his hand voluntarily looked for the call bell to call for help. By the time he located it, he immediately and drastically pressed it a couple of times until he stopped. As the string had ceased moving, its tip was at the edge of the darkness. He started to press the call bell once again, hoping that someone would answer. The rapid clicking stopped when he heard a soft giggle from the dark corner where the string was heading. Then, as time stood still, two pale, skinny fingers slowly moved from the shadow and towards the tip of the string, picking it up, pulling it into the void. An overwhelming silence pressed in, identical to the eerie quiet he'd known on the street. His anxiety spiked, and his hand began to tremble. From the room's hushed corner, a faint sound emerged. It was like someone untying something naggingly familiar. Just before he could place the memory, the sound solidified. A music box. Then, from the engulfing darkness, the box appeared, clutched in what looked to be an old woman's hand. As her face slowly crept into the meager light, a soft giggle broke the stillness, followed by a whisper, wet and too close, crawled into his ear, freezing the blood in his veins.
Hi there, mister.
If you liked our short story, please hit the like button. If you want more of our original short stories, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or follow us on Facebook. That's it for now, fellow night owls. Until next time, good night, sleep tight, keep the mirror out of your sight.